I love this one. No one gives a shit about how much you lift. Having a fat ass is more important, yet we continue to get fatter. I don't agree with that. Ladies and gentlemen, I got some LTC for you. Last time I asked you on my Instagram what your hot takes or controversial opinions on weightlifting were. That's the previous video that I had made. This time it's about the general population. First and foremost, guys, I don't ask for you to subscribe usually, but I realize on my analytics that a vast majority of you aren't subscribed. So if you do, it would be a massive help, not just to continue to get your viewership, but it also helps, push my channel on the algorithm. I would really, really appreciate it if you could just go up, click subscribe. Also, if you guys want to be a part of these videos, follow me on Instagram. I do these little polls and then, you might end up on one of my videos. So let's get into this. The first thing we're going to look at is Big Jake lifts weight. He says having a fat ass is more important than actually being a good athlete on social media. I think as far as numbers go, you're a much higher likelihood of gaining traction on social media from looking good than you are from performing good. However, I think if you look at the top athletes, just because of the way that they perform, they get a lot of attention. And they get a massive following. I think that's a smaller number. So yeah, I think actually having sex appeal is more important than performing well if your goal is to get fame. If your goal is to dominate your sport, you shouldn't even worry about social media. I talked about the voyeuristic trend in Olympic sport coverage where you have these videos, they're just like compilations of women just unknowingly being filmed and sexualized on the internet. And I actually got a DM from someone saying that out of those videos, some of the women had actually gotten major sponsorship deals. It is a very weird paradox. And, it's definitely something worth thinking about when we look at sex appeal compared to actual performance. All right, the next one is from Bald Omni-Man, and Bald Omni-Man is he's a smaller channel YouTuber. I watch his stuff. We message each other on Instagram now, so give him a subscribe and a follow on Instagram, and you'll have more stuff to watch. He says, if America sponsored more athletic programs, we would still be obese overall. The reasoning, strength sports and science is only improving, yet we continue to get fatter. Absolutely, 100% agree with this. 100%. On TikTok, my most famous video on TikTok is me pulling up a study about weight gain and from different generational gaps. So we have millennial, Gen Z, Gen X, boomers, and the amount of weight that they had gained over a period of time during the pandemic. And I brought this up, and my God, did I garner some criticism from people. And eventually I ended up replying to somebody because I wanted to point out that decent portion of statistics that are pointing out the obesity in America are from the CDC. At the same time, and what I was trying to do was point out the fact that, obesity is one of the biggest cause, if not the biggest causes of death as far as like a comorbidity goes towards COVID. And when we combine what the CDC says for us to do, get vaccinated, all these practices, with the fact that the CDC has been talking about us getting more and more obese, all of a sudden we have crossed the line. And all I'm simply pointing out is you cannot cherry pick what you deem the CDC to be worthwhile. Out of one side of your mouth, you can't say, okay, they're doing no wrong to us. The CDC has all the right guidance. But the moment they start talking about obesity and not accepting it in America, they're wrong. So I simply tried to point that out, and even in that I said, the knowledge that we have online now is just growing and growing and growing. The potential to take yourself from somebody who knows nothing about training to learning, educated, practicing, making adjustments, the ability to do that has never been higher and will continue to get easier and easier and easier to do. And yet we still see America getting fatter and fatter. So yes, I agree with this wholeheartedly. Non-competitive CrossFit is the best long-term form of exercise. I don't agree with that. But let's break that down a little bit, because there's portions of it, if we break it down, that I could agree with. CrossFit isn't CrossFit. The way that, like, I have gone to a CrossFit class and they've said, okay, we're going to do 5 sets of 3 back squat, at moderate to high intensity or high load. After that, we're going to do a 400 meter run followed by some air squats and some burpees. Now, if you look at that, that's strength training and that's conditioning, just brought to the masses. That's not CrossFit. If CrossFit cannot claim the ownership of combining movements to create some sort of metabolic adaptation. I do believe that, having a good mixture of strength training, cardiovascular training, hypertrophy training, all of these different things, but consistently doing whatever that is and having a good mindset, that's ultimately the best long term, for sure. If CrossFit can provide that for you, then yes, it's the best long term. If it can't, then no, it's not. So this one, I'm going to combine a few because I think a lot of people had a similar outlook. Training for aesthetics is a one-way ticket to burnout, body dysmorphia city. 90% of people that claim to be healthy have severe eating disorders, and bodybuilding has an almost celebrated mental illness problem. These are all centered, around, let's talk about competitive bodybuilding. I had brought this up, and I was talking about, in the tier list, one of my videos, I had talked about Arnold. And the reason that I had revered Arnold over many other bodybuilders was his charisma and his lack of any, shown mental illness, if you will. The thing that I described was this just weird sense of torture that these bodybuilders put themselves through. What they do during their diets, like none of it leads itself to health and fitness, and it ends up not even really working out for them in the end. It feels like Sisyphus, it's like this thing where they're just torturing themselves and talking about it, and it's like this geeky way of doing it that's just very strange, and it does absolutely lead to mental illness, and it leads to death. These practices, these mental illnesses lead to practices which lead to death. I mean, I feel like Derek from More Plates, More Dates is covering a new bodybuilder who passes away from bodybuilding, which eventually leads to death. He talks about it once a month. And, all of these things, the reason why I think bodybuilding more than anything is really encapsulated by mental illness and these issues is because it's about vanity. It's actually not about performance. There really isn't much performance. I think some people are like, oh, well, you got to know how to pose and stuff. I'm like, well, that's not even remotely as difficult as doing what Steph Curry does. Okay, if I went up to an NBA player and said, you will look 4 points less sexy, okay? You're an 8 or a 9, I'm going to make you a 5. But what I can guarantee you is 25 points a game. They're going to take that every single time, okay? So what you have is you have people who are looking for high performance, which also will many times lead to mental illnesses. Absolutely. This has been proven time and time again. I think Michael Phelps just came out with a documentary about this exact thing. He's been very open about his mental illnesses that he has had because he's trying to focus on high performance. Now mix that with vanity. Mix high performance and vanity together. You are going to get a horrible, horrible outcome. I agree with these 3 for sure. Overhead press is greater than the bench press. I would say so. Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, the kinetic chain is much more robust during an overhead press. I mean, you have to have your wrists in line with your elbows, in line with your shoulders, in line with your hips, knees, and ankles. In the bench press, it's just shoulders and elbows. You got to worry about 2 joints. So when you are stabilizing that well, it's a more difficult movement. And if you can progress more in that, it will do more than just progressing on the bench press would. If I had to choose one movement for everyone out there to do, and the only choices were overhead press and bench press, I would choose the overhead press 10 times out of 10. I love this one. Sport-specific training isn't doing your sport with a band resisting you. So, yes, I agree 100%. I think I created a term in a bunch of my videos called weaponized specificity. And essentially what it is taking a look at general movements to get athletes generally strong and shooting them down because they're not specific to the exact task that someone would do. I work with martial arts athletes right now, and I see this is rife, right? Martial arts is rife with this shit because they're very much about this like anti-macho, being strong idea. When in reality, I'm not trying to get athletes to be macho and show off their muscles. Like I understand jiu-jitsu. I understand martial arts. Okay. Though I'm only a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, I get it. Okay. I've been destroyed by people who are much less strong than me. However, when I see certain techniques where we need to apply force into the ground from very compensated positions, it is near factual that general strength training will help that person. Not only will it help them apply force more, but it will protect them for if they want to add in additional training. So what we see is this weaponized specificity, and like this person had mentioned, putting a resistance band around someone while they pass guard, or they make a motion like they're passing guard, or they're throwing punches with a band to gain more resisting strength. And it's, right in the specific wheelhouse. The guys at Seek a Strength put this perfectly. The changes that are elicited from that are minimal, and it's very difficult to progress, right? So if we are always looking for some sort of overload training, you create some sort of adaptation. The only way to continue creating that adaptation is to continue some form of overload training. And it becomes very difficult to keep track of, very specific movements with bands. You see all these different implements being used. It's very hard to keep track of that and continue to progress. So I agree with this. Sadly, no one gives a shit about how much you lift. Gen Pop only care about the looks. I agree and I disagree. I think if you look good and you lift more weight than the average person, that's the greatest combination you can have. Sadly, that doesn't mean shit. It's always, here's the deal with Gen Pop, guys, and if you are watching this, it's likely that you're not part of the group that I'm talking about. I always bring this up. We are in this bubble. We are in this tiny little bubble of people that really do understand strength training and fitness because we were curious about it. But most of Gen Pop are passive, foam finger, home team rooting slugs. Okay, they're not going to take the time to understand any nuance about this. He look good. I like him. There it is. He look good. She look good. I like watching her. I want to do what she tell me do. That's it. Do they only care about the looks? Well, maybe not. But I think it's more important to point out the distinction here between groups. And our group, and it sucks for me to point out these things because then I can become a virtue signaler and I can become a us versus them. But it really is the truth here. Like when you step outside of like your understanding of fitness, you look around and you say, holy shit, these people do not know anything. It's scary. I love this. I love this so much. Athletic training is dumb. The Gen Pop is better off doing compounds and going on walks. Well, okay, the reason I love it is because the reality is Gen Pop is better off being consistent and finding out what gets them to be consistent. Whatever your goal is, it's very likely that there's a solution to getting that goal. You want to lose weight, caloric deficit, finding something that you consistently do. You want to gain muscle, tried and true compound movements, resistance training, eating enough protein, maybe a caloric surplus will get you the results you need. But those are things that I can tell anyone ever. But if you don't consistently do it, it doesn't fucking mean shit. So look, I think doing compounds and going on walks is fucking brilliant. I realized this in my own training, okay? It's hard for me to go to the gym and snatch and clean and jerk really hard and bench press and do all this strength training really hard. What's easier for me is to be like, you know what? Today I'm going to focus on pull-ups. I'm just going to get in the gym and just do a fuckload of pull-ups, weighted, unweighted, eccentric, isometric, all these different versions of pull-ups. Maybe I'll add in some rowing in there too. And then you know what I'm going to do? When I get home, I'm going to go for a long walk and listen to a podcast. I believe that if I'm able to consistently do that with individual exercises, from day to day to day, I can stay much healthier than the rest of the general population. And I can be a consistently healthy and happy person. Okay, this one's a spicy one, and I really want to see what you guys have to say in the comment section. If you don't work out by choice, you are mentally weak and detrimental to society. Wow. There's this quote from Socrates. I'm sure many of you have heard it. No man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable of. And I think if you don't have that inherent drive to do that, I think there needs to be a chance for you to gain that inherent drive. So it has to be like for me, I was almost tricked into having that drive. I went to CrossFit and I had all of these different metrics by which I wasn't successful. So I wanted to gain that success in those metrics. And that led me to loving weightlifting. And that, led me to having a deeper understanding of how to train others, of how to train myself, even though I can't or don't want to pursue weightlifting as intensely anymore. I still have to maintain this health and fitness. And I now know how to do that. This is very bluntly put, and I asked for this, if you don't work out by choice, you're mentally weak and detrimental to society. I think, it is possible that somebody who takes almost an anti-stance against physical training could likely be potentially detrimental to society. There's a chance that somebody who is not, physically active at all and denies their body the capability of having healthier adaptations, there's a chance that their mind is clouded as well. And I genuinely think that those people's opinions can be detrimental to society. Now, this is not to equate the man who lifts heavy weights and has a great physique is being smarter than the average person. I'm sure there are many people out there who aren't very physically fit who are still very intelligent and do produce a lot of good things for society. But yeah, the potential for this to be true is always there. So that's the final take for the general population fitness hot takes. I hope you guys liked it. Please follow me on Instagram and also subscribe. If you follow me on Instagram and I do another one of these things, you might be featured in my channel. So I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next video.